Hello, America. Welcome. This is 5 Points Perspectives, the Cocky Bastards Chronicles, and we are your Cocky Bastards, Trey Captain Zach Lambert. So this week we took care of business at ECU, and came up with a big 20-15 victory. And I think we're doing a little bit better in the bet. Zach, if you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, Trey, we're now 2-1, so we are well on our way to not having to shave our heads.
I think so.
And it was, like you said, it was a big win against East Carolina. And before we get into that game, we're going to touch on a couple games of note that happened last weekend in college football. One was Georgia versus Missouri. Trey, Georgia was favored by 7 points, went on the road to Columbia, Missouri. Had to convert on the 4th and 10 to win the game. Big play by Jacob Eason and Isaiah McKenzie to connect there. And Missouri had their chances. The offense played a lot better than I think people thought going into this year. Drew Lock threw for over 300 yards, had 3 touchdowns, but also had 3 picks. 2 of them were pretty costly there late in the game. And Missouri had a chance late. They were driving down the field, had a big play, but the receiver fumbled the ball and didn't have any timeouts left to stop the clock, so Georgia was able to sneak away with a win.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of chatter in this game. People saying, "Wow, Missouri looked a little better than they did against their first couple against West Virginia." Or Missouri looked a little better than they did their first couple of weeks. But I think this really might be a case of perhaps, I don't know. I'm not one of these media experts. Maybe we're overrating Georgia a little bit. Maybe we're just assuming Georgia's going to be good because Nick Chubb's there and they have Kirby Smart as the head coach. Somehow that's supposed to just catapult them into the upper echelons of the SEC. I'm not buying it, America. I'm not buying it. I'm saying it right now. I don't think Georgia's all they're cracked up to be. Missouri's going to lose to us at Williams-Brice. So is Georgia. As we know, the top 25 is sort of a wasteland right now. You got a 1-2 Oklahoma team still in the top 25 somehow. These rankings are meaningless. We really don't know who's going to be good and who's not. But there is one team that I know is good, Zach, and that's going to be Louisville.
Yeah.
And the way we know that is they blew out Florida State 62-20. They worked the most points anyone has scored on Florida State in school history. Zach, talk a little bit more about this victory.
It was actually a pretty competitive game, for a quarter and a half. And then Louisville took over. Florida State, DeAndre Francois, their freshman quarterback, made some mistakes. And Lamar Jackson and this Louisville offense took advantage of that. He rushed for 4 touchdowns, almost 200 yards on the ground, threw for another. And Trey, he's well on his way to being the front runner for the Heisman Trophy this year. I think he's already counted for 18 touchdowns. And I don't think we're surprised that Louisville was able to score. I mean, we're probably surprised they scored 62 points. I don't think anybody saw that coming into it.
No.
But the fact that their defense held Florida State in check with a team that has Dalvin Cook, who was a Heisman contender this year, shut him down. DeAndre Francois, who had a big game against Ole Miss.
Right.
And Travis Rudolph at receiver, Amon Lane. And they got a lot of playmakers, and this Louisville defense is for real. And I think they're a complete team. They also scored on a punt return for a touchdown by Jerry Alexander, former South Carolina commitment. And they were by far the most impressive team of the weekend, in my opinion.
Florida State's still a good team. I still think they're going to beat Clemson, but I think Clemson really has their work cut out for them with Louisville.
Okay.
We'll see how they're looking the next 2 weeks. I even think Georgia Tech might sneak one in on them. If they come out uninspired like they did against Troy and like they did against Auburn, I think Georgia Tech has something for them. Every week's not South Carolina State week, Clemson fans, and you're about to find out the hard way in Atlanta when the lights come on Saturday night.
Yeah, Georgia Tech's a team playing a lot better than people thought. They're 3-0 and had a big win against Vandy last weekend, I guess.
Oh, how about that, man?
I wonder if Derek Mason still feels disrespected after that,
I mean, we didn't even we weren't even supposed to talk about this, but coming into the weekend, reading about previews of that game, everyone's still talking Vandy up. Vandy's supposed to come out and beat Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech soundly beat Vanderbilt.
Was it 38-7?
Yeah, Vanderbilt only had 1 score. And what do you expect? Their offense is anemic. Not to say ours is explosive by any means, but come on, Shermer's just not setting the world on fire. I think we saw that week 1 and week 2, and we just saw it again.
Georgia Tech, I believe, will give Clemson all they can handle. Clemson typically doesn't play well in Atlanta, so it's a night game. Like you said, it's a night game down there. Definitely Georgia Tech has a chance to pull out a win against the Tigers.
And moving on to another team that has a chance to pull out a win against the Tigers, let's talk about our game against ECU.
Good segue there.
We sort of got off to a fast start. That's something we lacked the first 2 games. The first 2 games of the season, we had 0 points in the first half. This game, we came out in the first 5 minutes, scored 17 points. And, we were sort of hanging on after that, but 17 points was enough because, like I said, East Carolina only managed to score 15. I think the fast start really gave us some confidence and gave our defense the confidence to stick it out really when, later in the game when they were getting tired and they'd been out there for, 90-something plays. I think that fast start was a big contributing factor to this victory against the ECU squad.
Yeah, something we haven't done the last couple of weeks, so it was good to see them come out with a sense of urgency and actually score. Another big key to the game was South Carolina's red zone defense, Trey. Like you said, the whole East Carolina offense that was averaging over 40 points a game to 15 points. Philip Nelson throws 2 key interceptions in the red zone. One Jamarcus King picked off, and then Chris Lamons.
Yeah, that Jamarcus King one too. That was a beautiful interception. He really had to stretch for that. He really had to work for it. This isn't an interception where the quarterback puts it in your hands.
No.
Jamarcus King, he's going to be an elite player. He is an elite player. Moving on.
He displayed his length for sure. They had a forced fumble in the red zone, and we blocked a field goal. So for the defense to be out there over 90 plays, offense didn't really help them out much after the fast start. We had a lot of 3 and outs. It showed how good a shape this team is in.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't give up many explosive plays. I think Coach Muschamp said they had 2 passes over 20 yards, and they had a run over 12 yards, which is what he considers an explosive play. So for a team that had 91 plays total, only had 3 explosive plays, averaged 5.7 yards per play, I think it's a great defensive performance for a team that doesn't have much depth and was able to hold up.
Right. Yeah, and that's a big point Coach Muschamp made in his press conference after the game was, a lot of people are going to be out there talking about, ECU had 500 total yards, and that's true, and we can't take that away from them. They did dominate time of possession too. Our offense didn't help our defense much, but everything went according to plan. We don't mind them getting yards between the 20s. What matters is whether or not they get on the scoreboard. Mm-hmm. And in this case, we were able to keep them off. The passing lane sort of shut down in the red zone. They weren't able to run the ball, and in the end, we forced some turnovers, blocked a field goal, and they didn't get enough points on the board to knock us off.
Yeah, and the turnover margin, we were +4. They had 2 picks and 2 fumbles. And against Vanderbilt, we were -2 in the turnover margin, the same as against Mississippi State. So we're able to even it out now. Our turnover margin is now 0.
Right.
And so that was pretty big for this defense to gain some confidence, knowing they can force some turnovers, force some big plays, and get the ball back to the offense.
Yeah, for sure. And that was really probably one of the biggest X factors because usually when you lose time possession, you lose total yards, you don't win a lot of games, but the turnovers can really swing things in your favor, as we know.
Yeah, especially when they're in the red zone. A lot of guys that made some big plays in this game, Trey, were some newcomers, some freshmen. Mm-hmm. And you look at Brandon McElwain making his first career start, had a couple touchdowns. Brian Edwards continues to be the best receiver on the team. DJ Wanham was a true freshman that not many people were too excited about because they didn't know a lot about him. Mm-hmm. Muschamp found him late in the recruiting process, the last signing class. And he's a guy that has over 8 tackles this year, a couple tackles for loss, a couple sacks. And he looks like he's going to contribute a lot. He already is. He's playing big minutes as a true freshman, and he's going to be a big-time player down the road. Keir Thomas, another true freshman from Miami, had a big game, had a sack. Enriquez Davis had a couple catches for 32 yards, really starting to emerge and hopefully be a weapon for this offense. Jamarcus King, we already touched on him, the big interception he had. He's not a freshman, but he is a newcomer, so it was exciting to see him and get his first interception as a Gamecock. Antoine Water had a forced fumble in the red zone, which was another key play in the game. And you can keep going on and on, Trey. There was a lot of freshmen that made big-time plays in this game. And it's only going to help them. They're only going to get better as the season progresses. So
yeah, that's true. And I think this bodes well for us not only for the rest of the season, but in the coming years. I don't think the media is going to talk us up like Tennessee, like, oh, you had a good recruiting class 4 years ago, and now you're top 10 in the nation or whatever. They're not going to treat us like that, but we don't want it like that anyway. We're going to let the wins talk, and we're going to be back in the top 25 sooner than people think.
Yep. That's going to do it for this ECU recap. Stay tuned within the next couple of days for the preview of the Kentucky game.
See you then.
Go Cox.